Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. I am Conrad Saam from Mockingbird, and I once was invited to try out for the U.S. national rugby team.
And I am Tsakalakis from Attorney Sync, and I have witnessed 2 Michigan national championships in person, and I am super grateful and privileged because 5 years ago, I would have said we were borderline irrelevant.
Hey, Guy, I note that you did not go to the hockey playoffs, and they did not win. Is that on you?
It is. I unfortunately could not get my permission slip signed for another field trip for Michigan, having spent time in Indianapolis at the Final Four and getting to see my good friend Matt Spiegel. It was really fun to watch the Wolverines trounce the Arizona Wildcats. And in addition to Michigan national championships and hockey losses, we also talk about legal marketing here on Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Conrad, what are we talking about today?
Well, as always, we start with the news, and then we're going back to one of our most popular topics, by the numbers, where we're going to showcase data, real data by data people from Near Media, Conductor, and our great friends at CallRail.
Adam, Conrad's favorite song.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, teaching you how to promote, market, and make fat stacks for your legal practice. Here on Legal Talk Network.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Let's start with the news. All right, everybody. I just got off the phone with 2 of my favorite people from one of our favorite Lunch Hour Legal Marketing sponsors, CallRail. And what they wanted me to share with you guys, and this is cool, is that they're throwing all of their AI technology into their minimum product. So as a standard, you're getting all of their AI, which I think is really awesome. And I also, Guy, I don't know if you agree with this, but I suspect most businesses that have to play in the AI space are going to do this because of the deployment of AI and the ease of access of AI resources by Joe the consumer. Do you agree with that?
I do. AI for everyone. AI is not a moat. And companies that are building a moat around AI are going to find themselves swimming in their own moat. Or
wow.
I guess that doesn't really work.
Drowning in their own moat. You want a worse analogy.
There is no moat, though. There's no moat. There's no moat.
There's nothing to drown in.
How are you drowning in the non-existent moat?
When we come back, Guy will come up with a better metaphor.
In other news, as reported by Reuters, there are bills to rein in outside investment in law firms advancing in California and Illinois. And the short version here is that California and Illinois are trying to get ahead of the non-lawyer ownership of law firms with some pretty strict prohibitions. And I can't wait to talk to our friends at A Seat at the Table about this very subject. Stay tuned.
And we always have our ear to the ground, watching what's going on in the news. Breaking news coming from you out of Canada. From our good friend, Darren Shaw. This was really fascinating. This is a big change coming out of Google. They're refusing, and they've changed their guidelines for reviews to discourage and actually prohibit merchants requesting their staff solicit reviews. This is a really, really big change. One of the biggest things that we have seen, Guy, in terms of getting reviews is encouraging specifically intake staff. And by encouraging, I mean paying off as bonuses intake staff and others who are mentioned specifically in a review. And so let me read this for you. This is an update that came out. It is April 15th, tax day. We do not allow merchants to request that staff solicit reviews that include specific content, including content that identifies a staff member. problematic across the board. So I think of, let's move outside of legal. I think of a hospital. You've got that really, really good brain surgeon that Google doesn't want you to mention that you should talk to Janet, the brain surgeon, because she's the best. I'm struggling with this. I'm also curious that in a world of fake reviews and in a review ecosystem that is drowning in fake reviews, actually getting a staff member to be identified indicates this is actually a real review. So this is going to tip the scales towards more and more synthetic reviews as a percentage of reviews as opposed to actual reviews, even if it did name Jeff for doing such a good job on intake. What do you think, Guy?
This is a trash rule by Google. Google should be ashamed of themselves. And it's even worse because in other breaking news, also from our good friend Darren Shaw, Google is also creating the ability for business owners to respond to reviews using AI. So now real people that do great work and have happy clients who want to sing their praises online can't suggest that they go sing those happy praises on Google business profiles, but certainly you can mass produce fake reviews and AI generated replies to those fake reviews with AI. Thanks, Google. Great call.
Problematic.
What could go wrong?
Board.
Clearly, I'm not fired up about it.
What else you got?
In our last news item, and I will give a shout out to our friend Darren Fancher, who brought this to my attention from JP Morgan's Misanthropic PDF. And I'm just going to read you probably have seen the headlines on this. Anthropic reports that Mythos has detected thousands of high-severity cyber vulnerabilities, some of them created by chaining together multiple obscure software weaknesses. The remarkable part is that Mythos' cyber hacking skills are emergent, since it wasn't designed specifically for that purpose. AI security expert Nicholas Carlini, who joined Anthropic a year ago, stated that I found more bugs in the last couple of weeks than I found in the rest of my life combined. Again, that is from a report from Eye on the Market from, I think it's Michael Sembalest. So we want to give him credit for this. But this has been big news. I think it's bigger news than a lot of people are leading on. I know that as we're recording this, OpenAI has also set its most advanced models out to try to defend cybersecurity. But if you're of the mindset that one, the US may not be the leader in AI and may not be the leader in cybersecurity and defending against the powers of AI to break these systems, boy, we might be in trouble, especially you vibe coders who are building your own software using AI for your law firm clients, especially if client data is in there. So think CRM, practice management tools. And this has been one of the pitches. You know, we heard this pitch at Tech Show. And again, I think longer term, I was very much like, eventually they'll figure this stuff out. But as of right now, gosh, it seems like there's a lot of vulnerabilities, even in the best software on the internet. Conrad, what do you think?
Well, now that you've depressed everyone, I think we should move on to talking about where you can hang out with me and Guy if you want to be depressed in person and talk about the status of the cybersecurity world as it pertains to AI. Where are we going to be, Guy?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be talking about cybersecurity, but we are going to be at the Great Legal Marketing Boot Camp. We are super excited about that. I'm giving a talk on integrated marketing and how omnichannel is eating single channel direct responses lunch.
And I am not allowed to talk about what I'm talking about yet. That's a bit of a teaser.
Yours must be on AI.
It's quiet. No, I think every other talk is on AI. How to
rank an AI.
How to convince your prospects that you can guarantee them a spot in AI. And then the next day, we're going to be at a seat at the table, which is being put on by our good friends at Vista Consulting, Tim Mackey. If you have any interest in learning about how money is coming into the legal world, be there, because all the people who are playing in that game will have a seat at the table. See what I did there?
Very clever. And we will be carpooling to that event. So maybe we'll do an on-the-road episode while Conrad drives from D.C. to Baltimore.
We're carpooling. I may have to have you along as a very awkward third wheel with a client lunch. I didn't tell you that part, but in between that...
Well, I can get my separate car if you want.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You've already dragged me to an awkward client pitch that neither of us won.
We lost a scorpion. Scorpion.
That I will never
and
get
we
over
will
that.
Also...
Yeah.
After we have recovered from all of this travel, we'll be heading to PILMA Super Summit 2026 on May 20th to 23rd. And you're going to be talking at PILMA, but I will not.
I'm still putting the final touches on this, but we're basically taking you talk about omni-channel. We're talking about the marketing campaigns, the omni-channel marketing campaigns of an 8-figure law firm. So breaking that down, what they're actually doing, where they're spending money, how they budget, how they really do run omni-channel in a large law firm. And I'll be breaking all of that down in San Antonio at PILMA's Super Summit. And finally, Guy, what are we really excited about?
We are super duper excited about the LHLM Super Duper Summit because breaking news, it is no longer just a summit, nor even a super summit, but a super duper summit. So get there. And we would love, if you've got an idea for a super duper Ignite talk, send us a super duper email.
And I'm just going to share one of our speakers. We are really, really excited to have Morris Lilienthal from Martinson and Beeson coming up. He's going to be talking about all the work that he's done for years and years and years with community involvement. So great highlight from Morris Lilienthal at our Super Summit. He's just done very creative and clever ways of becoming kind of the guy in Huntsville, Alabama.
A super duper guy.
Super duper guy.
And if you are still with us on YouTube after all this nonsense, and you have literally nothing else to do with your life, you might like and subscribe to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. Let's keep the conversation going. Leave a comment. We've gotten actually some great comments, so we appreciate you super duper fans who are leaving super duper comments and topic suggestions. In the meantime, here's another episode you might like from our last episode that Conrad will be speaking about. Is AI optimization a thing? And let's take a break. And we're back. And one of my favorite segments that we haven't done in a hot minute is by the numbers. And my first number is 44%. And this is from the latest round of research with our friends and research partners at Near Media. 44% of respondents to the survey, American consumers, don't know how personal injury lawyers are typically paid. Conrad, how does that strike you?
Were there only two categories? Yes, I know how they're paid, and no, I don't know how they're paid? Or was there I'm not certain? So let me ask, I guess my number question is, is the contrapositive true? Do 56% of American consumers know how PI firms are paid?
Yes, 56% know that it's a percentage of recovery, so a little over half know. Hold on, I'm going to give you the answers to your questions. 31.5% don't know. 6.6% think they're paid on a flat fee, and 5.8% think that they're paid by the hour.
Interesting.
And so for my reaction to this is that, look, it's about half no, and which, gosh, you'd hope, because as you drive down any major interstate highway in any major metro area, you will see or turn on TV, or flip on the radio, or flip on your social feed, or click onto any personal injury law firm website. You will see things like no fee unless we win. But for half of the crowd, it sounds like the no fee unless we win messaging is not helping folks understand.
Well, I think there's two possible explanations on this. Number one is no one pays attention to this stuff anyway. Right?
When you say, well, what do you mean?
Well, you just drown out advertising. right? Like you and I watch, I know you don't drive in an Uber. I know you don't sit in an Uber in a new city and not look at billboards. We look at this all the time. I'm surprised it is so high that there is that level of awareness. I think the other part of it that is very possible is we're making the assumption that people think there's only one channel. It may be that free consultation with no money unless we win, like that may be viewed as a marketing gimmick, as a marketing shtick, as opposed to a industry-wide business model, right? But 56%,
very possible.
Like, that's high.
Yes, I think that, to me, my takeaway here is that despite the plaintiff bar's best efforts to explain how contingency fees work, at least half the people still don't know. And that's an opportunity to educate your local community. And don't use contingency fee to explain it, but find ways to communicate that this is how we're paid and why that is supposed to take risk away from someone pursuing a claim. At least that's the theory, and I think that's part of the message that that personal injury folks should get out. Second number for you.
Go.
36%. Again, this is from our Near Media friends. 36% of consumers made a choice about a lawyer without clicking through to a law firm's website on mobile. Okay, so
on mobile,
okay. And 16% on desktop. So just the talking point here, and we'll make sure you have links to all this stuff, but the overwhelming majority of choices on law firms, so this is users actually clicking through, so they're watching people actually do a search, and whether they decide to contact a firm right from the result or click through. So this is user behavior,
right?
This is user behavior. Yep. 16% are making their choice without clicking through. The overwhelming majority on desktop are still clicking through. It's much higher on mobile, making the choice without clicking through. 36% without clicking through on mobile, but still the overwhelming majority clicking through. And so the takeaway here is, and it's interesting because I don't think that they broke this down by channel, but we have seen a lot of choices, especially with, LSAs is like the most obvious one, where that choice is being made without clicking through. And I think my sense is that we'll have to see this over time, like a year from now or 2 years from now. My sense is that these choices will even more be made without clicking through. But as for now, people that are messaging like, hey, you just got to show up and people are going to contact you from the search results, that is the minority consumer behavior based on our research.
I'm not super surprised about this. And also, I suspect these are hypothetical. I want you to contact a lawyer, right? It is not when they're doing their research. It is not people who are hiring a lawyer. It is they're sampling and giving them a task. And so I think if you are really dealing with a legal issue, personal injury, whatever else that might be, you do want to take the time to learn as much about that. And maybe not as much about that person as possible, but you're going to take the time to do that vetting process. And that is a website experience, period. No, like that is just the most obvious thing. So I'm not really surprised about this, especially because we're dealing with high consequence issues. Like it's not like you're buying a pencil or, buying a movie ticket or something like that. And so I'm not super surprised about this. It does go back to the importance of fast loading websites, really good messaging, really good positioning, really good content on the site. The sites matter, right? So yeah, I'm not super surprised on this.
I'm very surprised because, and again, I think it'd be interesting, and maybe we can talk to them about getting a couple examples of user behavior here. When you couple this statistic with some of the other statistics that have come out that relate to how likely they are to choose from an LSA when an LSA is on the page, when you couple this with our internal data about the number of Google Business Profile tracked phone calls right from the profile, right? So they called the tracking number from the GBP in the non-brand context. So you search for car accident lawyer, you see the reviews, and you call the number. I would have guessed it would have been a little bit higher, but it's still 36% on mobile. So 36% are still doing it. I expect that number to grow. I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now, if half of the people that are reported in this are making that choice without doing a click, especially also as the platforms move into less click. Like they're forcing you to make this decision in platform.
That would be a massive drop, right? Half? I don't know. I think we're still, consumer behavior wants, like you want to read the brochure, right?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the interesting thing. But for sure, as of right now, I think that our data would suggest, like, yes, you still need to invest in your website, especially from a conversion standpoint. I think there's a whole, as we've talked about, we probably can dig up an old episode where we've talked about this. Not necessarily a pretty website, but a website that converts. I think that is still a really important part of consumer journeys today. And
if you want to hear more from Near Media, Greg Sterling will be speaking at the Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit. You don't want to miss this. This is Near Media is making more firsthand data research available to law firms than anyone else. And the other thing, and I'll just pitch this for them directly, if you have an interest in learning your what is called unaided brand awareness in your market and how that changes over time, that is something that Near Media does. We're doing that with a bunch of our clients. We're doing that with a bunch of our new onboarded clients, so we can track understanding and awareness of their brand over a long period of time, like it's probably year to year. But that is a great service that Near Media provides. But come to the summit and hear directly from Greg Sterling.
Let's take a break. We have a question for you. How do your numbers reflect the numbers that we just presented from Near Media? Are most of your qualified consultations calling Google Business Profile tracking numbers? Are most of them coming from local services ads where clients didn't click through to your website? Or are the overwhelming majority of your clients still coming from conversions on your website? Please let us know on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you happen to be watching. And while you're here, why don't you give us a rating on Spotify or a review on Apple Podcasts? And we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn.
And in our next segment, we are going to show, and I'm going to ask Guy some questions from numbers that were shared to me by our great sponsor, CallRail.
What was that sound, Conrad?
Guy, I'm going to start with a question for you. This is going to drive you up the wall. This is actually a study. It was brought by CallRail, but it was actually conducted, by Conductor, which is amazingly the first business that I wrote about in search engine land. When I started in this industry back in, I believe it was 2007, I wrote a scathing article about Conductor. They're still around, but they just did a study on the percentage of marketers that claim to be able to measure GEO visibility. What is that number, Guy?
90%.
Oh, you are sorely mistaken, my friend. You grossly underestimate the hubris of the digital marketing world.
How did I grossly misunderstand it? That's more than 90%?
It's 97% of marketers claim to be able to measure GEO visibility. 97%. And here, Guy and I are sitting telling you that we can't do it. We are either the dumbest marketers out there, or some people are a little overconfident in their ability. Why do you think, this is mind-boggling, why do you think 97% of marketers claim to be able to measure GEO visibility, Guy?
Because they are using the rank tracking tool line, which is that they're defining visibility as the percentage of times that a brand shows up for a large number of synthetic prompts. So if you define it like that, sure. And we talked about this, and I think we pointed to the AI optimization episode that we just recently did. And so if your definition is we can track visibility because we can create a bunch of prompts that are not necessarily being used by real clients and customers, and we can track the number of times your brand shows up, not necessarily in any given position, but just shows up in a result, that's something that can be tracked. But it's an artificial third proxy metric, like something like it's like a domain authority type of thing to me.
Oh man, I was waiting for that. It's worse than domain authority, dude. Like it is completely synthetic, and the problem. We've talked about this, and I would encourage you, if you don't understand why Guy and I are so outraged by this insane number, go back and listen to the last episode where Guy really lays out why tracking results in AI is so unbelievably difficult, and it really boils down to the lack of a feedback mechanism of what is actually happening. What is actually happening to humans at scale, and there is no feedback mechanism, right? It is very difficult.
Yeah. And again, even if we try to be open-minded, and because of pushback, I can already hear some of our worthy rivals saying, well, at least it's some data. Some data is better than no data.
No, it's not.
And right, I know. But even if, let's just say that, hey, okay, we all acknowledge that. How much money are you spending to track your visibility in a statistically significant way? Because most of these platforms that are doing this, they'll admit, like, you need a lot of prompts. Like, tracking 10, we're not talking about tracking 10. You're showing up 50% of the time for 10 prompts that we track. They're talking about thousands of synthetic prompts that you need to track in order to do this with any kind of statistical significance. And then you couple this with the research that Rand's done at SparkToro, and it's just like, gosh, you're spending a lot of money to track something that doesn't have a lot of meaning. I mean, I'll tell you what, I bet you I can find better ways to spend your marketing dollars than tracking synthetic prompts.
Yeah. So I am going to move on because I did talk to one group that actually does have data on this. And that was CallRail. And so let me explain why we just made fun of people claiming to be able to measure GEO and why CallRail is actually really, really helpful in this. Part of the deal with CallRail is that it is tracking multiple touches on someone before they become a prospect. And it also has a transcript of those inbound calls, and it can weed out any source data from those as well. So you have a lot of information of actual people actually calling a law firm who were touched in some way by AI. Okay, so CallRail did an analysis of March data. So Guy, I'm going to ask more questions for you. 20 million calls. They looked at 20 million calls for CallRail, and CallRail doesn't just work with legal. So I'm going to ask you the first question. What is the percentage of inbound leads that originated from AI?
The percentage?
Yeah.
1%.
Again, you are grossly overestimating. So it is less
I'm not
than
very good at this game.
of 1%. So it is
1/10 of 1%.
Yeah. 0.095% of inbound leads now originate from AI search. Now, the interesting thing, Guy, and this is where I start to fly off the handle as well. We keep hearing from marketers about their data-driven marketing. Most of them are in a tizzy about AI and proclaiming themselves to be AI experts. If you had a marketing channel that was generating 1/10 of 1%, less than 1/10 of 1% of your business, of the global business from it, is that something that you would drop everything and put all of your money into?
Well, obviously not. And it seems to me that the data that is being driven here is these agencies and rank tracking companies' bottom lines.
Wow. The ultimate KPI. Now, let me ask you a follow-up on this. So this was fascinating. The number one industry, and they look across all these different industries, the number one industry that is impacted by AI is legal. Okay. And we also know deeper in this study that those clients who have been touched by those prospects who have used AI tend to convert at a higher rate. Okay. So this is, it's not important, but legal is the number one category. Travel, retail, agencies, etc. Legal is the standout. What do you think the percentage is in for legal? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to make a note that actually corroborates the Near Media research in the PI space that, yes, a lot of people are using, or more people are using, or comfortable using AI for legal research. It was a lot. It sounds like this CallRail data is related to actually phone calls of law firms, and so it'd be very interesting to know if these folks that ended up calling a law firm started their journey doing a research task, or if they started their journey doing a business lookup task. And then the second thing is that, just to clarify, this is all self-reported, right? So, for example,
it's not just self-reported.
Okay, well, so this is where things get messy then.
Yep.
Because, as we've discussed many times, if someone goes to ChatGPT and the response includes a link to Google, that can break this attribution data altogether. So it would need to be a chat. Well, and this is an interesting question too. You've been saying AI. My brain automatically went to ChatGPT. How is this distinguishing between AIOs, AI mode, and AI and other surfaces aside from ChatGPT? Like, are AIOs included in this? Is AIOs one of the AI touch points?
My understanding, and I've not gotten.
It's got to be no.
In fact, maybe we should have CallRail come and talk about this.
Clarify
study. We'd
love
good.
to have CallRail come on.
My understanding is
that'd be my question.
They're grabbing any instance that they possibly can that could be attributed to AI in any way.
Okay, so that would be really interesting, because then it's less than 1%, even including AIOs.
Yeah, that's my read.
Wow,
that is my read.
Wow. And so old-fashioned LSAs and PPC and organic search.
PPC, television, all of that stuff, right? This is I think my meta point here is this is a portion of your marketing campaigns. You talked about omnichannel earlier. AI certainly should be. Is it a growing portion of this? Yeah, absolutely. So they actually show this. There's been in legal, a 7% increase over the last 4 months in touches from AI in legal. So it's growing. Don't get me wrong. Is it I want to put my, tomorrow's revenue in this single bucket right now? And the answer is decidedly no. The other thing that you mentioned, Guy, that I thought was fascinating, you said heavy research. As I was writing heavy research on my notebook here. And I do think, and again, this is why people convert at a higher rate, because they're spending more time researching things. There's more information that you could learn. And I think I've shared this in the past. Our client, as we have examined our own clients, our client who has the highest, and by far the highest, a statistical outlier of touches by AI, has been a franchise lawyer. They do franchise work, and which makes all the sense. And I think that they're an outlier for us by like a factor of 10 or 15. And I originally thought it was a data error as we were looking at marketing touch points, and turns out it's franchise. And there's a reason for that, because you don't just wake up and like, oh, I need a new pair of Nikes. Like, I'm going to open a Taco Bell franchise, right? It's a longer research period. And so I think the more research you end up doing, the slower the purchase cycle, the more research you provide, the more AI is going to have an impact. So for example, personal injury, much less than say family or business or estates or franchises. That's anecdotal.
So are you saying that I shouldn't pay for that platinum GEO add-on to my existing SEO services?
We have, as an agency that offers a platinum GEO optimization service, I think you 100% should talk to your customer success manager at Mockingbird. No, but I think you need
Where's
to
the
think
trumpet?
about...
Where's the trumpet?
The trumpet, right. This brought to you by Mockingbird.
Where's the 8-bit trumpet?
I think you, like every other marketing channel, I think you need to understand your firm's marketing reality. What are your strategic objectives? What are we trying to do? Do we have a long-term vision of the future? Do we have a short-term need to keep the lights on? How much are we willing to invest in something that is going to return over time versus I need direct response inbound prospects to sign up tomorrow? What does the competitive set look like? Do I even have anything? So one of the things, it's interesting, we haven't gotten into this, but when we think about our extra special platinum super secret sauce for AI, there are a lot of firms that like don't really qualify. Do you have anything to talk about? Do you have anything that's digital PR worthy, right? Some of you don't have those things. And so you shouldn't play in the game without those assets. So again, like every other marketing channel, you need to match what you've got from an assets and liabilities perspective with the reality of the firm, with a competitive set and your overall business objectives to come up with, should I really be dropping 5 figures a month on something that is, and we just called this out, a small portion, albeit growing, of the overall market.
Well, and here's one more final point, because I'm really so frustrated by seeing all this stuff. But like, I see it, because again, I try to be judicious with coming to the table, and I always get burned when I do, but I keep doing it. It's just who I am. And I'm like, yeah, sure. There are things that you might be doing differently than you've done before, especially in terms of on page. You might, this idea of like explicit answers closer to the front of the earlier in your content. Okay, that might be a thing. But sometimes I see things like optimized H2 tags. And I'm like, huh? So you're just now starting to optimize your H2 tags? Like that's the hot new GEO thing?
It's the new thing, man. It's the new thing.
Right? Like a URL, like a semantic URL structure. Like that's the hot new GEO on-page update. Like that's the thing, is a lot of this is just the same as it's always been. And look, I'm again trying to be judicious. There are some differences in the way that you approach this, and certainly in prioritization. And we've talked ad nauseum about citations, and you just brought up digital PR, but largely like digital PR, to me, and that's been a thing for a minute before even AI was. I think the difference now is maybe I don't care so much about the link as I do about the mention.
My big picture is the whole AI game is going to turn into a digital PR game. And you're right. The Venn diagram overlap between digital PR and SEO is very, very heavy. I just think it's, we're doing press releases now, which I've always hated, always hated. But it's a different game. It is a slightly different game.
Here's my GEO strategy in a nutshell.
Go.
Get people talking positively about you and your law firm in as many places around the web as you possibly can. Done. Free.
All right. Guy, you're going to have to do the wrap up because, as you know, I stumble over my words every time I try.
Well, dear listeners, thank you for struggling through another super duper episode of Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. We are truly grateful for your attention. We can't wait to see you at all these different events that we'll be going to coming up, and especially Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit. If you have questions or topic suggestions, please reach out to us. We really appreciate it. And as always, if you're willing to say something nice about us around the web, please do, so that we show up in responses to AI prompts for our next dear listeners. Till next time, Conrad and Guy saying farewell.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Yeah, money make a world